Right. Welcome to Crossing the Line, Tales from the Entertainment Industry. Today we have former actor, creator, CEO and the governor of mixing networks, and now producer, director and documentary maker. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's right. And you're working the documentary at the moment, is that?
Yeah, it's a long running thing.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been doing that for?
We should introduce. His name's Michael Singleton, by the way.
I
don't think we said his name there.
Should we start again?
Yeah, we can do if you like. Why not?
Can I start again?
Well,
Okay,
this is the kind of mess up that's actually quite enjoyable.
Do we say today crossing the line? Do we need to say that?
Well, you can if you like. Why
You
not?
have your little catchphrase.
Yeah. Today on Crossing the Line.
Like explosion.
Yeah, Michael Gamarano Singleton.
Gamarano.
That's the full title.
That's the full title. It's got the longest name. He's won.
I know.
He's won that.
It's so long.
Right. Welcome everyone to today's episode of Crossing the Line, Tales from the Entertainment Industry. So today we have former actor, creator, CEO and the governor of mixing networks, producer, director and now documentary maker, Michael Gamarano Singleton. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Welcome.
So you have been working on a documentary recently with Laura Windows, is that
Yeah,
right?
that's
Can you just
correct.
give us a brief description of who Laura Windows is for people who don't know, people who are watching who are perhaps not in the industry?
Yeah, Laura Windows is a casting director. Been casting for 10 plus years. Worked in many different offices, Nina Golds and so on. Currently associate to Suzanne Smith. Worked on amazing projects like Outlander, Carnival Row, which has just come out. Lots and lots of different stuff.
Sounds a bit like, you know how when you have somebody like a doctor or something, got PhD, BA, next to them, you just have these really long titles.
Yeah, TV shows, Lord of the Ring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
LOTR. Fair enough. So what's going on with that at the moment?
Yeah, so Laura, being a casting director, realised that people haven't really sat down with any of the UK casting directors. There's a documentary out in the US that came out called Casting By, which was about mainly US casting directors. And she came to me and was like, I really want to tell the UK casting directors' stories. We have so many great casting directors here, some of the best in the world, who cast some of the biggest projects in the world. And she was like, well, how do we do this? And I was like, well, let's just do it. So we just started messaging and emailing casting directors and was like, look, we want to do this documentary. We don't really know where it's going yet or what it's about. Would you mind sitting down with us? And to our surprise, pretty much all of them said, yeah, we want to tell our story. We interviewed like Kate Rose James and Priscilla John, some like really top casting directors. And it just started from there. And then we sort of snowballed into this full documentary, which is, we're proud, a year and a half in now.
You went to America, didn't you?
Yeah.
One of the awards, which was that? Golden Globes?
No.
The other one?
Emmys.
Emmys,
Went
right.
to the Emmys, yeah, filmed at the Emmys.
What was that like?
I wasn't there personally.
Oh,
Laura went. I couldn't make it that week, so Laura had to bring another friend
You're
instead.
busy with more important things.
Yeah,
I'm
of
sure.
course.
Yeah. Which you won't tell us about today.
Well, I didn't know that there's actually two Emmys. There's the one that goes on TV, which is for the actors, and then the week before, that's when they give it out to casting directors and people who are deemed not as glamorous.
Oh my God,
really?
I did not know that.
So
how is that judged then? Because how is it judged on casting? Because casting is a huge thing. You know, you've got so many people to cast, and it would, you know, how do they go about doing that? Do you know about the process?
I have no idea.
No.
But I guess it's just judged on how well the casts are put together and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I expected the primetime Emmys and booked my trip around that. And then Laura, like, after I booked everything, and it was like, oh yeah, it's actually the week before, and I'd already made plans. I was like, oh, I was so close to going to the Emmys, but so
next year.
Next time.
That's
So
right.
does that mean that the Emmys, you know how BAFTA have just opened up a casting directors awards thing? Does that mean the Emmys have always been ahead of us?
Yeah.
In that sense?
Emmys were the first one,
Okay.
and now BAFTAs, and hopefully next will be Golden Globes and Oscars.
Oscars and stuff.
That's the next. But we did actually interview the head of the Academy. His name now, but
don't worry, I'll look it up really quickly.
Yeah.
We'll edit it in.
Yeah, we'll do,
I'll do your voice.
Oh yes, his voice. Bear with me.
David, I think his name. Just not good.
And when are you hoping for that to be ready?
Hopefully next year.
I mean, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good ongoing project though to work on, because obviously you've done your short film, which was 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
David Rubin.
David Rubin.
That's the one.
David Rubin,
That famous name.
head of the Academy. He's actually a casting director. He's the first casting director to be the head of the Academy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we interviewed him, and obviously one of the questions was, is the casting going to be in the Oscars? And he was quick to be like, oh, that's not my position. I'm here to look after the Oscars. I'm not here to try and impose my power into doing that. And we were like, okay.
when you have someone like obviously a lead in a film, and you know they're holding the film, they're carrying it. If they're judge casting on that, it can't solely just be that, because obviously they might be on board before anyone else is on board or any money is exchanged, parties or anything. So is it a broader kind of view? Do they have a board of people that look at it and go through it?
I guess so. Like, that's the misconception about casting. It's just the leads.
Of course not. No.
Whereas like the cast is the whole picture and how it all fits in. And if it casts perfectly, you don't even think about it.
No, of course you don't.
And I guess that's what it. Because a lot of the times, especially with the Hollywood actors, they're already attached. Yeah. But that's 2 out of, say, 100 people in the small
people forget
part.
All the guy who comes in and says, "Oh, you forgot your coffee." So
that all has to be cast. But even like the supporting cast. But even then, there's times when the leads aren't attached at all, and they have like lists and names, and the casting directors are the ones who like have to find out availability a lot of the times. Obviously put their input into like, look, I think this person should be the best lead and so on. So it's not always the case where it's attached.
So it's like where the producers have gone, I would like to have Daniel Craig for such and such, and they have to go, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's doing James. It's an independent James Bond. That kind of thing.
But it does happen. Yeah. They come in with like 5 names, and 3 of them will be unavailable, and 2 of them might be available. But then they're just like, well, why don't we try this guy instead? And then they're like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. So yeah, the leads are influenced as well by casting directors.
I suppose they've got a lot of contacts as well, because they would have known these people from when they were sort of early actors and then early in their career. Interesting stuff. Interesting. Good.
So you were invited to come and do this documentary with them. What have you kind of learnt from that whole experience? Like
how just sitting with casting directors, how big of a job and how much work they actually put in to casting. Like, we sat down with Priscilla John, who cast this film called 7 Years in Tibet.
It was Brad Pitt, wasn't it? Yeah.
And she spent a year of her life in India.
Wow.
Trying to find real Tibetans. Wow. Like a year where they just paid for her to travel around, and she had to go up into the mountains and stuff and literally put these Tibetans on tape. And people don't realize that
they weren't actors.
No, they weren't actors. But the director wanted to be authentic. So even if it was just like non-speaking parts or very small parts and stuff, and some of them were just like a few lines here and there, he was like, I want real Tibetans. But obviously a lot of Tibet was taken over by China, so they had to be exiled into India. And a lot of them sort of just disappeared and didn't want to be touched. So imagine your job is to find these people.
And they just do not want to be anywhere near.
And like she has like great stories about how like the director would be calling and be like, I haven't heard from you in 2 months. Like, what's going on? And she's like, I'm trying to put them all on tape. They don't really know anything about like technology and all this sort of stuff.
And that was years ago. That was early 90s, mid 90s, something like that. Yeah. So it must have been a lot harder than today when we've got Wi-Fi and we can just upload it and send it off.
Yeah, I know. But she had to literally like post the tapes and that's like a year of just doing that, and then to not be recognized for an award or any recognition or anything for how much work that you have to put in, it just seems just sort of rude, to be honest.
Yeah, I wonder why. Well, I don't even know why it has been sort of bypassed in the past. I suppose it's the limelight. Everyone looks at the director and the actors.
I was going to say, I think I can understand the misconception with it all when people are saying, you know, why should these people get all these awards when they have just got. So let's use The Two Popes, which has just been cast by Nina Gold. It's got Anthony Hopkins and Jonathan Pryce, 2 massive powerhouses. And you've gone, she's been nominated for picking 2 great actors in a film. I don't see how she'd really extended herself. But then when you hear stories like this, you go, oh no, there's actually an awful lot more that goes on around that. And that's just what people don't know about, do they?
Yeah.
So,
and that's just one film. There'll be other things like Game of Thrones, where it's got 8 seasons of however 10 episodes each or whatever it is, and they've got, you know, most people weren't a name in that generally.
You sound like you've watched all of Game of Thrones.
I've watched most of them. I haven't caught up yet, but you're outing me. So by the time this goes out, I'll have watched them.
But I don't know if you watched 1917.
I haven't watched it. I'm going tomorrow, I think.
But like the cast in that is amazing, and they all have like small parts. You have like Colin Firth in there with like 10 lines and
Cumberbatch as well.
Tiny part, like tiny, but that would have been put together probably by Nina.
Well, it's a bit like Warhorse is similar in that sense, isn't it? Or 12 Years a Slave, where you have Cumberbatch again, Brad Pitt, Fassbender, and there are just different stages of his life. The thing, aren't they?
But these are like really like not like small parts, but like they're in it for such a short amount. I'm talking like 5 minutes of screen time, if that.
It's nothing, is it?
Yeah, compared to what they used to do, which is obviously like leading films. But that probably would have been put together.
Is that something you think we'll see more of? Because that's not traditionally. It was always the movie star, bring the money, and then you'd put people around them. Do you think that's something we want to see more of?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's been around. It was quite rare because you'd see these like very famous actors. And then your natural instinct is like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be a big part for this person. And then they'll disappear, and then that's it, and they're gone. And then another famous actor will come up, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is... And it's like, oh, they're gone again.
Yeah, they're gone.
And it's just like, there's probably like 5 or 6 people that are like massive A-list actors that have like tiny, tiny parts in this. But that is just casting. That's it. And I'm not sure if that was Nina who put that together, or the producers. But it did make a difference because like they are amazing actors. Even if it is a small part, you can still see how well that cast has been put together. I don't know, have you seen the film?
I haven't seen 1917.
No.
Yeah, I was hoping to go last night, but then when I went along, the screen was completely sold out. It's just one of those you go.
Should have booked, mate.
Should have
booked in advance.
Sounds like it's pretty good.
It's one of those films you need to watch it in the cinema.
Yeah, there's a lot of this. I was talking to someone the other day about this, about them watching films on phones. Do you ever do that?
Never.
I never watch. I think it's disgusting. I literally do. I was watching what David Lynch was saying. He was like, this was not designed to be made on something this big. And it's literally, you haven't experienced it. If you've seen it on I never watch it.
No.
I think it's horrendous. You be quiet if you've done it.
Cricket
you
noises.
leave. delete.
But it was like when DVDs were around before like streaming. I had so many like, especially cinematographer friends who'd be like, I would never watch a DVD. I'll just get the Blu-ray.
Really?
Just because it's like we lose so much of the definition and we lose so much of what the film is meant to be.
Really?
Why would you watch a film in standard definition? It's just
I suppose when you see it like that,
yeah. Well, most people don't have DVDs now anyway. It's all streaming and you can watch it. But yeah, he would only ever buy Blu-rays. That's it.
What did you film your short film in?
I think we filmed it on the Arri Alexa.
Oh, great. That's great.
Yeah.
It's a really good camera.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It looked beautiful.
It's like 4K then, or if not more.
Yeah, we had a DOP called Josh White, who is really good and he's worked on loads of stuff. And I learned quite young, so I went to film school. Make sure that your DOP is the most experienced person on set.
Why is that?
Just because they will help you make a movie.
Yeah.
You could be like an inexperienced director, but if you have a really experienced DOP, that will pull you up.
Yeah.
Because you can be like, oh, I think we should shoot this side and this side, and they'll be like, what about like this?
Yeah.
And, you know, and you learn.
And you go, that's so much better.
Yeah.
Wow, that's why.
I mean, Roger Deakins did the 1917, didn't he? He's great. He's
Yeah,
great. He was obviously pulled in specifically for that.
Yeah, well, he's like the top of the top.
Yeah.
He's like the master of cinematography. But yeah, it was always important. And now I start to understand about shots, but especially when I was younger and I just used to make stuff, I'd always try and make sure the DOP was the most experienced person.
Yeah.
Because I would just learn from them and what they're doing.
You mentioned before that you went to film school. Where did you go?
Well, it was London Met. Well, I went to like a film production course,
Was this after you were an actor?
No, before.
Oh, okay, right. So you always started out as a filmmaker rather than an actor.
I never wanted to be an actor.
No.
Never.
So how did you fall into that then? Because you did it for a little while, didn't you?
Yeah, it was halfway through making films at the course. I put myself in one of my films, as you naturally do, and I was like, oh, this is quite fun.
Yeah.
This is all right. And then I signed up to
Next
this
Stop Hollywood.
random website called starnow.com at the time.
Oh, is that still going?
It still goes,
It
yeah.
still goes, yeah.
This is, I'm talking like 10, 11 years ago. And then I ended up being like an extra on something. And I was like, oh, this was fun. And then I ended up signing to an extra agency and worked on like, TV shows and stuff. Can't even remember them now. And would watch the actors and stuff. And I was like, I'm going to go and try this, and started doing some random acting classes. And before I know it, I was in LA, living there as an actor, going like, how did this happen? This was meant to be like a bit of a mess around.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be an actor. I just wanted to be a filmmaker.
Did you find that obviously you live in Britain at the moment. I assume we're in Britain right now.
Yeah.
And you did acting work in America. Well, how do you find like the difference between British and American? I know the system, training.
Yeah,
all that
I guess so. Like in England, it's you go to drama school for 3 years, and then you know everything about acting.
This is
And
true.
that-
They're all masters of their craft.
Yeah,
as soon
after
as they
3
come
years.
out. Yeah.
Whereas in America, they was like constantly on it. And I think England is starting to adopt that.
Mm.
And I brought that with,
You did,
with
yeah.
Mixing Networks.
That's sort of what you founded your company on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To have that mentality.
Yeah, constantly be training.
Mm.
But that's what I found in America in particular. I would be in like this class, and I think it was called Margie Haber. I think that was what it was called. And I was in this class, and I'd see actors in the class with me that I would recognize on TV. Like, I would see them on TV, and then I'd go to class, and then they'd be in class. Or they'd come late, and they'd be like, sorry, finished late on set, on Blue Blood or whatever it is. Got to be there. And I was just like, why is he
What?
in
Yeah.
class if he's working?
This guy's already nailing it.
Yeah,
Why is it-
but that's why he was working.
because he was constantly sharpening his tools and
constantly,
all
yeah.
that,
And I was just like, this is like crazy. Like, this is never happening in England.
Mm.
If you're working, you don't even think about
No.
class because you're like, well, I've made it now. I'm working.
And do you think it is just that arrogance is probably the wrong word, but
Well, it's just the system
Mm.
and what.
And people copy, don't they? They see other people do it, but in LA, if people are doing it, then they do it as well.
yeah,
I heard
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds went to one in his like 70s. He'd go to
Yeah.
like class and stuff, and like the teacher would be like, "No, you're doing this wrong," Bert, and he'd be like, "Okay, yeah, let me try it
Yeah.
again."
Yeah, and
Can't
people.
imagine having the like sheer will to tell someone like Burt Reynolds that he was getting it wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was that, and people would just constantly be in class, and it's like if you ever go to an audition, or an agent meeting, the first question, be like, "Oh, what class are you in? You know, what classes are you doing?" Because they want you to constantly be on it. And I found a difference of when I was in class constantly to when I wasn't. How different, like my confidence was and my ability was. It's like I play basketball, and I play every week. If I take a month off, when I come back,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
perishable, isn't it? You do.
I'm just like, oh, I've never
Yeah,
played
it's
this
good.
before.
Yeah, that's right.
How
That's
are you all
right.
so good?
Yeah, but it's the same skill. It's like if you're doing it every week and you're constantly sharpening that craft, then you are just concentrated and you are better because it's just practice makes perfect.
Mm.
So did you work when you were in LA? Did you have another job as well? Because the visa system there is a bit, you can't work and be an actor.
I worked as an actor.
You did work as an
Oh,
actor.
really?
That was,
Yeah.
You did.
What kind of stuff did you?
A lot of commercials.
Lots
Yeah.
of commercials.
Oh,
I think
okay.
there's at one point I was in 3 national Mexican commercials.
Really?
Never spoke any Spanish.
You've done it. You've done it.
There's one good story where it was like Tecate, which is like similar to Corona, which is like a Mexican beer that's just popular out in Mexico and America. And the whole crew was Spanish. I didn't have any like dialogue, but the whole crew was Spanish. And the director was, when I say Spanish, I mean Mexican.
Yeah.
Spoke
They spoke
Spanish.
Mm.
And he would like yell at me in Spanish directions. And I didn't have the heart to tell him I don't speak
Really?
Spanish. And the lead, who was like a Mexican star or whatever, would just whisper what he would say.
Yeah.
So he'd be like, da 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 da, and then the guy would be like, move to your left. And I'd be like, and this went on all day. And I was
Really?
and
This
like,
guy can take direction.
yeah, and I just had to avoid the director at all costs because I was like, if he starts a conversation now, after working
You're
with him for 8 hours,
absolutely stuffed.
and he realised that I don't actually speak any Spanish and would look like an idiot, so it's just like, so yeah, I think
It's like when you meet someone and you don't know their name, and there's a point where you can't tell them you've been with them too long now to say.
They're always called Buddy.
Yeah.
yeah.
You just have to carry on with the
Yeah.
lie.
The thing is, because I'm half English, half Brazilian, so I know I don't look English, but like in the whole time, I never booked one commercial that was like for England or
Really?
even for the UK, and
Mm.
because sometimes they would cast stuff there, and then screen it in England, and I'd go up for it, but just because I'm obviously English.
Mm.
And I never would get it. The only ones I would get would be like ones for like Jewish-looking guys,
Mm.
or Mexican, or South American,
Yeah.
or American. I got a few American ones
Yeah.
as well. I never got any English ones.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, but I
Mm.
booked a lot. I probably booked about 15 commercials, and some
Over what kind of period?
over
of time?
3 years,
Okay.
and an average pay of between 5 to 15,000
Wow.
per commercial. So
Oh,
yeah,
That's really good.
so it made some all right money.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
about to
definitely,
say, you
definitely.
were smashing it.
Yeah.
Over there.
But my job wasn't. My ambitions weren't to be a commercial
Mm.
actor.
When did you come back then? Did you just suddenly say, this is enough, I've had enough?
Yeah,
now?
well, it was end of the visa.
Oh, okay.
And my agent at the time really wanted me to renew it, but my passion for acting has just died.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't want to be.
Why was that?
Just I never
'Cause
wanted
you're
to
just
do
doing
it.
commercials.
I was
I
doing
imagine,
and
right?
it wasn't my passion. It's like it wasn't something I ever wanted to do. I did it as like a bit of a mess around to start with, and then I just sort of got trapped in it. But I always wanted to be a filmmaker. That's why I went to study film. I've always wanted to just do filmmaking. And by the end of the 3 years, I was like, I can pay to renew my visa and carry on doing this and working and doing commercials and auditioning, or I can go back home and do what I actually want to do, which is go back to filmmaking, because my visa wasn't allowing me to do it in LA.
I was about to say, did you get any chance at all to do any over there?
Wasn't allowed.
Any legal film?
Not on.
No, not on tape.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So you came back, and then when was the light bulb moment when you decided I'm going to make my own company? I'm going to.
Well, the timeline is actually I started it before I left for LA.
But he just said he didn't. What? Okay, so you came up with the idea before you left LA.
Yeah.
And
So there's a time when I went to New York for like 3 months. Yeah, whatever, the 90 days. And I went to acting classes out there. And there was like, oh, you should try this like casting workshop thing that we're doing at TVI Studios. And I was like, what's this? And he was like, well, you pay and you meet a casting director and you get to learn. And I met like this amazing casting director. It's so long ago, I forgot the name, but they did like loads of good stuff. And I was like, this is amazing. You know, not only get to meet them, but I got to learn about auditions and also stuff that most actors don't know, are quite clueless about. And then I came back to England after 3 months and was like, London casting. And this was in 2009, London casting workshops. And nothing came up. And I was like, oh, okay, this is strange. Like, maybe no one's doing them. And I was 24 at the time. And I was like, I'm just going to start my own ones out. Because no one was doing them. So I just went on the CDG website, which is the Casting Directors Guild. Emailed every casting director on there and was like, look, this is a new idea. I don't really know how much the pay is. How much do you want? 3 hours. And then just use the same format over there. And out of, say, 100, only like 3 of them got back to me. And started the first one at the Spotlight, and then tried to persuade all my actor friends to come, and most of them was like, nah, I'm not doing this. So I started emailing
it. Still that same British mindset of, I don't need to do it, I'm working.
So I was like, okay, how can I get people to come to this if they don't know what it is? So I ended up emailing the agents themselves and finding like all the agents' emails. And was like, look, this is a new idea. This is what you get to do. And then if I tell an actor to come, they would be like, no. But if their agent tells them, they're going to be like, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got to please the agent. Yeah. If the agent tells me, I must go.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then it was like 1 a month at Spotlight. And then it was like quite popular. So it was like 2 a month. And then a few of the other companies started to cotton on and started to.
Who was your first one?
I think, it was a casting director called Irene Cotton and Cole Proctor.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still going, isn't he?
Yeah. And I think Irene is quite old school.
Yeah.
But they were just like, what is this?
So what advice would you give to an actor coming into the business now? So say someone's listening or watching and they're not an actor, but they're thinking about it. What advice would you say? Go down the drama school route, or do you think that's something that you can move away from now?
Don't do it.
Don't do it, yeah.
Don't do drama school.
No, I was talking about don't do acting.
Don't do acting.
No, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. Drama school is obviously good. It trains you a lot, but I don't think you need to necessarily do 3 years. You could just do 1 year, but you don't have to do it. It's just find what's right for you. But definitely train in some capacity. Don't just turn up and think you can do it.
Think you're gonna smash it.
Yeah, like a lot of people, I'm sure you meet them. They're like, oh, I could be an actor. You know, I can cry on cue, and I was like, that doesn't make it.
Recede back into
and I see it with some people. They just think they can just do it, and they might have natural talent, but you need to have some sort of training,
especially technical. Because if it's like that light over there, you need to be able to stand here and do it like this. Because if you move, then your eyes are off camera. It's stuff like that people don't realize, and they come out and they're either done stage work or had no experience on camera. And that's where you see it suffer, I think. Yeah,
it's just if you new actors, just find as many courses as possible. See what's right for you. There's so many. Some people want to do theatre. Some people, Meisner might help them. Other techniques. But drama school definitely isn't the only answer. It used to be, but not anymore. But just find what makes sense for you.
Do you think you said it used to be? What do you think has changed?
I think it is just the American influence.
So because there's, sorry, I've got a dodgy throat. Because there's such a wide variety of classes and things to do out there, you can actually get the full 3 years training, maybe over a longer period of time, but still with really good people and all that. Yeah,
well, even like the 3 years training, I think that's outdated as well. It's like just continual training. You can go. Some people pick it up after a year, but some people be doing it for 10 years. And just still constantly training.
Because it's not all new in the 3 years. It's like you're repeating the same things or doing plays or whatever it is. It's not something on the last day you then finish the last bit of information. It's a lot of repetition and they do a lot of dancing and things like that and singing as well. So there is a sort of variety there. Well, Charlie, you trained, didn't you, for 2 years, was it?
No, I trained at I did the foundation course at RADA.
Yeah.
And then I did a bit at Guildhall as well. So overall, in terms of actual drama school training, I've probably done about, I don't know, a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
Which has been a really good foundation for when I've come and done classes at Mixing or any other places, or I did Identity for a little while.
Or
as
acting.
Well. Or acting,
or
in,
acting
yes,
in general,
of
actually
course.
doing the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You forget that, don't you, when you're doing classes and all that. And then when you eventually get the work, you're like, oh, crap, now I've got to do it all.
Yeah.
I've got to actually implement everything I'm doing.
Yeah, well, Ollie, your old stomping ground, Identity.
Yeah.
Part-time drama school.
That's it. I
Just
did 3 years there, yeah.
Yeah, you could go in for, 3 months?
Whatever you
6
want, yeah.
months, whatever. That's what I mean. It's just whatever works for you. Whatever works for you.
Yeah. Did you leave it a long while till you made your first film then? Or were you making smaller films, but the one you've just done, Two Sides, the homeless story, was that something you've been planning for a while? Because it came to you. You're going to tell how it came to you?
Well, I'll get there.
Yeah, okay.
But obviously doing a 3-year film course, you make films.
Yeah.
And I made some student films, some terrible films.
The Purgatory one you told me about.
Yeah. It's just classic film, you know what I mean? It's like I've got these big ideas and you do it and it's just like sometimes simple ideas are the best ideas for short films. You don't need to make this complicated storyline how this purgatory and how there's a guy who's coming in and you're going to go to hell and heaven and stuff. And it was fun. It was experimental, but it was fun.
If we were to search, would we find this?
No. I've got it on a DVD.
Oh, okay.
Buried.
In
Epping Forest.
never be released. But it's fun to look back. But it's a learning experience.
That's it. You got to go through that to get where you are now.
Exactly. I learned a lot, and then I've got into acting, and I just thought it's going to be too hard for me to do both because acting is so hard in itself. I just wanted to concentrate on that. And then when I came back from LA, and I was like, okay, I don't really want to do the acting thing anymore. I want to get back into filmmaking. I had a sort of a filmmaking friend who knew that I'd made stuff before and knew I was interested in going back and gave me a call one day and was like, hey, I'm making this short film. The director's really ill, like a stomach bug. It's a 1-day shoot. Can you jump in and make this film with us? I'll send you the script now. We're filming in Dorset and I'll get the train with you and we can talk about it then. I was just like, yeah, all right, fine. Let's do it. And I was just like, oh no, what?
It's only afterwards where you go, oh my god, actual realization.
Yeah, so
what's going on.
The train is, I don't know, I think it's 4 hours. It's quite far to Dorset and it's quite slow. And I was just sat on this train trying to read this script with this friend called Ellie, who's trying to explain the film, and I'm there, the director had been hired the day before, and we have 10, well not 10, maybe 4 or 5 actors in this short film. And it was only a 5-minute short. And I got there and, and you start experimenting, you start putting your stamp on it. And then we filmed the last scene and then we were just let's have, a break. Well, no, it was the second to last scene and we had a quick break. And when they went on a break, I ended up writing another scene because I felt like the scene
needed a bit
was
more.
incomplete.
Yeah, it wasn't finished. It was one of those short films that had these not just open endings, but didn't make sense for me at the time. And obviously just being hired the day before, I was like, is this going to be rude if I just...
Yeah.
So I wrote this scene out with the dialogue and all this sort of stuff. And then they came back from the break and I was like, look, you guys don't need to take this, but I've just put this scene. I think it might make the film a little bit more clear and I don't know, just make it better. And then they read it and then they rehearsed it and was like, yeah, we love it, let's do it. And then when it came down to it, they were like, that was the best scene in the whole film.
Really? Oh, great.
And I was like, right, I can still do this. And then she was like, I'm making another film in 6 months' time. Do you want to do that for us? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And went off into the field somewhere in the countryside and filmed this it's another, again, very short film. Then I made a third film with them as well, again, really short. And then I sat down with Ellie and I was like, I want to make my film now. I don't know what I want to do, but do you want to make this film? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I just had this random dream one time. I know it's such a weird thing where I was walking along. I was an estate agent and I met this homeless guy on the street and he was asking me for change and I just sort of ignored him. And then I was selling a house and then I found him in my house and I beat this guy up. And I was just really going in on him. And then the next day I was walking on the street and I saw him there with blood, and I just felt so terrible. And I was just like, oh shit, he just wanted somewhere to sleep. Why have I done this? And then I woke up from this dream feeling awful. And I wrote the film in an hour. And I was just and I obviously had to change things and make it with an arc and all that sort of stuff. And I sent it off to Ellie, and she was like, "Love it, let's make it together." And then we put this film together, and it ended up winning like 6 awards. When I went to LA, went to New York, went to Australia, went to India, went to Canada, went to London, went to Birmingham and Glasgow, and loads of festivals.
Wow.
Did you learn a lot doing that
Yeah.
film? Yeah.
Yeah.
So at film school, would you say you've learnt more from just making films or from what you did from the film school? Because film school must be more of a broader look at everything.
Yeah, film school forces you to make films, but that's what you learn.
Okay.
And it introduces you to people. I don't know if I like learned how to make films at film school. I learned by making films, which were forced us to do.
Yeah.
So in a way it did, but they didn't really like teach me how to direct or teach me how to work with actors or anything. They just said, make some films. You know?
What's the most important thing you'd give to a new filmmaker or something? What piece of advice?
Just make films.
Just make them.
Just make them.
And get a good team?
Yeah, get a good team. But even then, just make stuff.
Because you'll learn from your mistakes.
You learn so much. That's what I learned. I'm like, okay, I need to know not to do this and not to do that. But you learn personally and stuff, and what shots work and what don't. And yeah, no, put together a good team. Get a good DOP and a good sound person. People forget about sound.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always really like picky about the sound. And that's what's good with working with Ellie, who's like, we've made another thing together, which is like this TV series, the pilot, and then I've just got her on to be the editor of the documentary as well. So it's good to like have another like partner who you work with, because sometimes it can be quite lonely, and especially if you're making a film by yourself, your ideas alone, you don't really have anyone to like input anything. Yeah.
To see if they're actually legs or anything.
Because there's times, especially if you're making it, you're attached to that personally. And then there's certain things that you're like, no, we can't cut that. And then Ellie would be like, let's just cut it and see. And then it'll cut, and I'll be like, oh yeah,
it does still work.
We don't need it. That's right. But you don't see it yourself because you get attached to it. So it is good to have like a partner or
so she helps you kill your darlings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the best possible way.
Yeah, of course.
Because my films, like, I think Two Sides ended up being like 8 minutes. It would have been like 13 minutes with me, because I would have kept so much.
Really?
And she was like, let's cut this and let's cut that and let's cut, and it just worked in certain and then you're just like, yeah, this is good. So that's another tip, actually. Find a good editor. Don't edit your own films to start with.
No.
Some people can.
Yeah.
But I think it's better when you have like a good editor who can come in with a different perspective of like your vision, because you do get attached to every scene and little looks and stuff. You're like, no, I really love that look, but you just like it, but it's actually not needed at all.
It's completely unnecessary to the actual story.
Yeah, because it's like, you don't need this look. It's irrelevant.
And when looking for sort of funding, making films, how would you advise someone to go about doing that?
This $1 million question. Yeah, it's so hard. It is that someone asked me, because I've done a lot of panels on this filmmaking thing, and I've talked to filmmakers, and it is a question. Or the question usually is, what's the hardest part of filmmaking? I say finding funding. Some stuff I've funded myself. Some stuff have just been through like grants and people who have a bit of money who just want to put their name to a film. But it is so difficult. Luckily, with the documentary Spotlight are backing it at the moment, because we went to them and we were like, look, we want to make this film about casting directors, and they were like, we want to get our name behind this. So they're funding that. But that is just because they're interested in that particular topic. Obviously, they work with casting directors a lot, and they want to get the word out about casting directors and how important the job is and stuff. So it's an impossible question, but just try and exhaust every avenue. But if you can, to start with, just make it as cheap as possible. Use your iPhones. Shoot
so many people mention that the phones nowadays are just as good as some cameras out there.
Shoot some 4K, the new ones.
Yeah, the iPhone 11.
Yeah.
Max, Pro,
you know,
Ultra,
you can
Omega,
get special
Alpha.
little lenses for it as well now, just to practice, because you need to get the shots right, and you learn that when you make it, of how symmetry is important and which angles work really well, and you know, it's like this needs to match this, and like crossing the line where it just confuses the audience.
Shout out to our name there.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let's get the 50 quid will be
That's it. It was
emailed to you.
Yeah, it's 35 minutes. There we go.
Yeah. If we could get another 3 times, that'd be fantastic. Cheers, Michael. Thanks. Wow. Okay. So that's quite a lot.
So watching when watching films, do you learn from watching as well?
Yeah.
You see things and like, oh yeah, that would be good to try, or I see what they've done there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they do cross the line on purpose to create
Yeah.
like a weird, uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
I think they did it in Drive or something I was watching recently. But is that important to see things?
Yeah, it always is. Like watching Spielberg, he likes these shots where it's like a glass. I think this is like the last thing that I can remember is watching Jurassic Park recently, which is an amazing film.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
now, it still holds. And there's a shot where there's a car. I think the woman's in the car. I can't remember her name. But then you see her through the window, but then you also see the reflection as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see two different sides. You get to see what she's looking at because you see the reflection of the car window, but then you also see her face as well. I was like, that is so clever. I'm going to do something like that. Or I get to see their face and what they're looking at the same time. I was like, boo.
So you just mentioned Spielberg there as a director. Who would you say your inspirations, mentors?
What you can say.
Love Spielberg. Love Cameron Crowe. Who did like Vanilla Sky.
It's your favourite film, isn't it? Or
One of them, yeah.
The Spanish version.
I like both.
Yeah.
Abre los Ojos, and Vanilla Sky. I love...
sorry, that's the same film as...
Yeah.
The same film was remade. Cameron Crowe remade it.
Yeah, he watched it and was like, I need to make this film and show audiences. It is an amazing... It's one of those films that has so many details in it, and you watch it and you find something new, which I love. I love James Cameron. I think he's very emotive in his films. Even ones like Titanic. I was thinking about this actually on the way here. There's a moment in Titanic which captures for me like James Cameron's like vision, which not a lot of people notice the shot or even the moment. There's a moment where Rose is on the top of the Titanic and she's with Jack, and you catch a shot of her looking at another woman with another guy, which is a really small moment, and they both share a look together. But for me, that's like James Cameron saying, this isn't the only story.
Yeah.
We're following this story. This
I've
is
never thought of that.
Yeah.
before.
this is
That's-
another person, and this will be another person. And there's just a very simple shot of them looking at each other, and they're in the same moment, going through the same thing. And it's just like, look, this happened to a lot of people. We're following one story, which is Rose and Jack's, but this is another girl and another guy's story, which is probably similar, where they're in love and they're about to fall to their deaths, and it's just like, and stuff like that gets me. And it's just such a clever little shot, and obviously he wrote it as well. But a lot of people will miss that sort of stuff, but I always pick up on the little things like that.
And he's quite diverse. I mean, obviously he did Terminator.
Yeah.
That new Avatar and things like that.
See, like Avatar, a lot of people panic, but I watched that like 3 times in the cinema.
I think when it came out, it was groundbreaking.
Yeah, like the
it was
3D as
proper
well.
use of 3D.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I watched it, being blown away by what I
Yeah.
had seen, because you just hadn't seen anything.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it was for, how long was it? The number one
Yeah.
highest grossing movie of all time or something.
Yeah, it was for a long time, and I think maybe Avengers or some whatever.
But I don't think. But we've talked about this. We say how it's only by inflation. What was the one? Is it Gone with the Wind?
I
Is
think
still
Gone with
the
Wind
highest.
is the absolute number one.
Yeah,
for
that's
the amount
right.
of
If you
money made.
Yeah.
which is crazy. Like, think how long ago that was made. What, 60s, something like that. Long while ago.
Look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I love the way he gets the audience. Like, how many people have watched his films and been like moved by them? You know, like Titanic and Avatar and stuff. Like, they are moving, and that's the essence of cinema for me, is to make you feel something.
Gone with the Wind was 1939.
Wow.
We'll
That
cut when
is-
I said 1960 because that's
Yes,
embarrassing. I should know that.
That is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Crikey.
That was what, wartime?
Yeah, but it was probably in the cinema for 20 years, so it had time to make it.
Just keep it on replay. People
Yeah,
like
that's
it.
right. It's still going now. Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
they're probably trying to escape war.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, all the bad stuff going on. It is escapism, isn't it?
Did you? How old were you when you sort of decided? Yeah, this is what I want to do. Not decided, but when you sort of discovered like that you were drawn to that kind of thing. Was there anything else you considered doing?
I don't know. My path into filmmaking is slightly different to everyone else's, because I grew up in Preston,
Sure.
in a council estate where if you say you're a filmmaker, you get beaten up.
Yeah. CCTV is like.
Yeah, it is. So there's no opportunities to make films where I growing up. Like, I studied sport at college, but I loved films, and my mum would take me to the cinema, and that's where my love of like filmmaking came from. And she'd like, because she loves films as well, and I would just watch these films and just be lost in them. And I was like, I really want to like get into this sort of stuff. And I remember finishing my film course at 18, and everyone else were going off to study my sports course at 18. Everyone else was going to study sport at uni. And then the teacher was like, "What uni do you want to go to study sport?" And I was like, "I don't want to do any stupid sport. Like,
Yeah.
I like to play it, but I don't need to study it anymore.
Sure.
I know every muscle now is like, I want to do film." And they were like, "You want to do what?" I don't want to go to London. I want to do film. And like, they just didn't like understand why I wanted to do that. So I applied to every film course in London, and all of them said no. And I was just like, all right, well, I'm just going to take a year off while I figure out what I want to do. So I took a year out and just worked and played sport. And then it came closer, and I was like, right, I'm going to apply again. And then one of them was like, okay, well, you're obviously passionate. We'll give you a shot. You need to write about film, write about what your favorite film is and why, analyze another film and all this stuff. And I was just like, I don't know what to write about. So I got scared, so I didn't actually write anything in the end. So I just left it, and I applied to a sport course, but I knew I wanted to be in London. And it was about 2 weeks before I was about to move down to London. And I was like, no, I want to do film. So I made up an excuse. I was like, yeah, my grandma died or something. I was like, I'm really sorry. Just as this email came through.
Literally as yours came in, terrible tragedy struck.
Yeah. And there was some excuse. And they were like, fine, we'll give you like one more shot. You've got like a week. Ended up like getting a friend to write about a film who knew about film. And I wrote a short story which they wanted. And about 2 days before I was about to move to London, they accepted me onto the film course. So I did sport for a week, where I didn't obviously turn up. And then while they transferred me over to the other course, which is film. And then by the third year, I was like the director of the short film because they give it. But I was so close to not doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like so close to actually studying sport in London. But luckily, this woman could relate and just gave me this second chance. And the rest is history.
Did they ever talk to you about that when you were there?
No.
You never brought it up. You were just like, yeah, I'm going to be here. This is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to the woman and I thanked her. Just, to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. Because the actual head of the course, called Peter, I think his name, was like, no, you can't do this. And she was like the assistant. And she's like, no, give him a chance. He's really passionate and his grandma died. So you got to give him a chance.
Feel really bad for him for this terrible tragedy.
It was literally like 2 days before I was moving down. They were like, yeah, you can do it. And I was like, woo, I was lucky.
That's great. That's really interesting.
That's one of those, in the movies where they say your future diverts at that moment. You turn left or you turn right, and had you gone down the sports route, none of this could be happening now. None of the movies you'd made.
But it's likely you'd find it some other way. You'd have not liked it 6 months, and you'd still be pulled towards that. I think.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, it was a different university. It was like everything was completely different. It was like studying sport in Ealing, and I was about to move to Ealing. And then I changed a few days before to London Met to do film for 3 years, and I had to change my accommodation and all this sort of stuff. But it all worked out. Worked out. Yeah.
Definitely. Great. So what we finished up is by asking you, is there a film that you're ashamed that you haven't seen, or a couple of films?
Probably. Now I have to remember which ones there are.
Yeah.
There's certain films that when people talk about them, I'm always like, yeah, I've seen that. I know which one.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight.
You've not seen The Dark
I've
Knight?
not seen it.
Wow.
Just bits.
Why is that?
So it's just never got round to it.
Do you know what, I'm sitting here in like absolute shock, but there are plenty of movies that I know I haven't seen that if I were to say...
Yeah, but that was in our lifetime. Some things you may have not just come across because it's older, whereas something like that sort of...
No, I know.
Have you seen the other two?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've just missed out the best one.
I know, but like it's on TV sometimes.
Like, just bring that a little closer. Yeah, that's good.
Sometimes it's on TV, and I'll turn it on, and I'll see like 10 minutes or 15. And I'll be like, no, I need to watch this from the start. Yeah. So I've seen like the famous scenes, like with Heath Ledger and all this sort of stuff, and blowing up, and where that famous scene where it doesn't work.
Yeah, on the hospital.
Yeah, but I've never watched like from the start to the finish the whole film, and I'm just like, one day I'll get around to it, and I just haven't. And then whenever anyone mentions it, I'm like, great film. Amazing.
The absolute masterpiece, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of me watching it.
With the timestamp as well. So have you got that? Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
How did you? I mean, you obviously haven't seen the movie, but you have seen the big bits of the Joker, of Heath Ledger's performance in that. How do you think that went up against Joaquin Phoenix recently?
I know. Well, obviously I'm going to be biased because I haven't really seen the full Heath Ledger performance. But Joaquin Phoenix's performance as Joker is one of my favourite of all time. It's up there.
All time, not just last year.
Yeah, not just last year. Like I was like mesmerised by his performance.
I remember thinking, especially as an actor, watching it and thinking, there are times where I watch movies and if I'm enjoying it or if I I'm not enjoying it, I can begin to kind of disseminate what they're
Yeah.
doing that I don't like or I do like. With him, I remember going, "This is incredible, and I have no idea why this is
Yeah.
incredible. I cannot describe to you exactly what I'm enjoying."
Yeah.
And I think as actors, you do have a different appreciation for it. So when some people go, "Oh, that was great acting," and I'm like, we look at it in a kind of different way. And obviously, filmmaking as well. You see, "Oh, well, that was an amazing shot. It lasted 2 seconds, but they probably took them 2 weeks to set that up or something." So there is a sort of newfound appreciation when you become an actor. Like, I'm rewatching films I haven't seen for years, and I'm like, "This is like I'm watching it for the first time now."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
revisiting.
Well, when you have that new, I know it's like a new filter or something of your
Yeah.
eyes, or that
Yeah,
experience.
if you try and watch it from a different perspective as well,
Mm.
which is for the best films is really hard because they just draw you in no matter what. You know, when you're like, okay, I'm going to watch this from like a filmmaker's eye, I'm going to look for the shots, and about 10 minutes in, you forget all about it and you get drawn into.
This is a really good movie.
Yeah, this is really good, and you forget to actually look at it and that sort of stuff, which can be difficult. And you have to force yourself to like, no, I want to study these shots, I want to study what they're doing, and all this sort of stuff.
Is there a film that you wish you'd made?
That's a good question. Yeah, from a filmmaker's side, is there one that you wish you had been at the helm of?
I mean, there's loads of films. It could be
But
like
if you could pick one.
Vanilla Sky.
Yeah,
Very good.
good stuff.
Very good.
I know people. I really like Tom Cruise.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
I think he's so charismatic. He's like classic leading man in terms of just like his personality just shines through in all his performances. He did another film which was amazing but didn't do too well called Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Live, Die, Repeat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Changing the
From
name,
the
didn't it?
graphic novel.
The Only Way to Kill was the book.
Was it?
Yeah,
That was
that's
it.
right.
Yeah.
It was so good. Like he dies and then has to repeat the same day. So it's like Groundhog Day mentality.
Sci-fi, yeah.
But it was made so well. And I remember reading like a really interesting article about how all the comic book stuff are killing cinema because they make these films and everyone just goes to watch that. And original films that used to be made that people would go and watch aren't watching them anymore. And they aren't being made because they know that the comic book ones are going to make loads of money.
And they've got sequels.
Yeah,
and everything else.
whereas like Edge of Tomorrow was like an original film. It was made really well, but it didn't do so well in the cinema because it went alongside the new Avengers at the time, which is probably bad marketing. And then that studio who made that would just be like, "Do you want to make a new idea again, or do you want to make Marvel film generic number 6, which we know is going to," and they were like, "Yeah, let's do that one."
Yeah.
Because as much as it's about art, it's about money.
Of course it is, yeah.
It's
People
about
are
money.
keep their
Yeah. So it
studio
kills it,
open.
and I remember being like, "Oh, I wish more films like this would come out."
But then as soon as you have a star like Tom Cruise attached to something, then it gives it all of that credit to it immediately. I mean,
But then if there's not going to be a sequel, there's less
Yeah.
money, isn't there?
Yeah.
wasn't it Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels that they did a screening of, and they were looking for money, producers and all that, and Tom Cruise came and saw it and stood up at the end and said, "Guys, you need to get involved in this." And immediately, like, all the assistants were like, "Get the boss in, filled in." And
I hadn't
then it
heard
was
that.
No, I hadn't heard that. That was interesting.
it might be Lock, Stock, it might be Snatch, one of the two. But
Yeah.
I think Tom Cruise is one of the reasons why it did as well as it did, because or got the funding to be created as well as it
We
did.
should really
Yeah.
check this before we start.
Before we just start willy-nilly throwing around all these
Good stuff.
grand things. Well, thank you so
Michael,
much for
your
coming in
attention
today.
is wearing thin.
No, it's
Yeah,
fine. It's all good.
Thanks so much for coming in
Thank
today.
you. It's
and
been really interesting. Really great.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.